You're live.
Thank you, sir. We are going to open this evening with a public hearing. The public hearing on an ordinance authorizing the transfer of City Hall to the Elkins Municipal Building Commission and the subsequent leasing of City Hall by the city and the Building Commission, from the Building Commission, authorizing design, acquisition, and equipping of improvements to City Hall and the issuance by the Building Commission of not to exceed $1.2 million in aggregate principal amount of lease revenue bonds to pay cost of such projects. Is there anyone here for public comment? If not, we will now close public hearing. I'd like to welcome you to the regular council meeting. We are going to start with the invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would, please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the blessings you have given us. We thank you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Elkins. We ask that you guide us in our decision-making as we strive to help our community grow. We ask that you put your arms around us and our community and comfort us as we mourn the loss of one of our own family members, Officer Ramon Go. Let us find comfort by remembering the positive impact he had on our community as a colleague and as a friend, and the compassion and love he spread with a kind word or a smile. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. I will now call the council meeting to order and ask our city clerk to take roll, please.
Councilor Bros Friganera. Councilor Carroll is absent. Councilor Chenoweth. Here. Councilor Hinchman.
Here.
Councilor Kearns.
Here.
Councilor Lowther.
Here.
Councilor Parker.
Here.
Councilor Plishka is absent. Councilor Severino.
Here.
And Councilor Thompson.
Here.
8 present. You have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone here tonight for public comment? If not, we'll move down to the minutes portion, and I will entertain a motion to accept the June 6, 2024 minutes as submitted.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under your correspondence notifications, you have building permits, zoning permits, and vacant property registrations. We have no presentations, so we will start with the council reports, and we will start with Councilor Parker.
No report, sir.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Bros Friganera.
No report. I was going to see whether or not the July meeting of municipal properties could be eliminated unless there's something pressing that needs to be discussed, just because of people's vacations and things like that.
Sold.
Okay. Are you good with that? Okay. All right. Unless something comes up, an emergency, we are going to cancel that July 8th meeting. Thank you.
Councilor Hinchman.
Yes, our finance just met at 5 o'clock this evening. We went over the HVAC system, which we'll be voting on this evening, and we had a request from Little League, which we'll be voting on this evening. Also, a mid-year, basically it's the Rail Trail Allegheny Highlands Trail, and we had discussions on the Gold Star Memorial.
Thank you. Councilor Chenoweth.
No report. Personnel Committee will meet on Monday, July 1st at 1 p.m. here at City Hall.
Thank you. Councilor Kearns.
No report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Severino.
No report.
Thank you. Councilor Lowther.
Rules and Ordinances will meet next month at its regular scheduled time. Parks and Recreation has met twice in the last 2 weeks. The first one was a special call meeting to approve the bid, the one and only bid that came in for Little League paving. And then last week was our regular scheduled meeting. We learned last week at our regular scheduled meeting that the County Commission, for the second year in a row, did not fund Parks and Recreation. That's a loss of $24,000 a year. Shame on them for not considering the youth of Randolph County, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilor Thompson.
No report.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move down to our staff reports, and we'll start with Mr. Kessiker.
Good evening. I have a very brief report.
Sanitation garage project continues to move along well. We put something in place that normally I don't think had been done in the past. If it has, I apologize if I'm misspeaking, but we're doing construction progress meetings every 2 weeks, so we can stay on top of things, nothing falls through the cracks, and so the contractor can hear our concerns, compliments, or complaints should some arise. I feel like instead of doing them once every month, if we do them once every 2 weeks, we stay on top of things and we know what product we're getting as we move along. Very pleased with how it's going up to this point. As Councilor Henchman mentioned, you'll be voting on the resolution or voting on the financing for the HVAC system. It's warm. It'll really make us a lot more comfortable in here. I'll just leave it at that. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Judy?
Good evening. In your packet, you have the report for May. I see it has March on it, but it's really for May. Financially, the revenues are coming in very strong, and I think everybody, or every fund is in good shape right now. Anybody have any questions regarding the treasurer's report? Okay, and I also we had the renewal for our workers' comp. Our EMOD factor, which is the factor that's calculated from the actual loss, in this fiscal year was 1.08, and the renewal is at 0.97. So you always look to be below 1.0, so that's trending in a right direction there. And then prior to this meeting, Finance met, and we looked at 8 different funding proposals that went out for the HVAC. Mountain Valley Bank was awarded that through the Finance Committee. And for the 25-year fixed rate at 5.28%. And then we had a Elkins Building Commission meeting, and they voted to accept that as well. So if you have any questions regarding that, Ms. Roberts or myself will try to help you with that. And that's all I have. Anybody have any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Chief Himes?
Good evening. Just a couple things from my absence from the last meeting. Our May report, we had 62 calls for service. June to date, since we're almost into July, we've got 47 calls so far in June. Year to date, we're sitting at 380, so we're on a pace of about 780 calls, about a 16% increase from last year. In regards to the vacancy, June 11th, we conducted interviews from the civil service list, myself, one of the shift captains, one of the senior firefighters, Mayor Marco, Councilman Parker, sat on that panel, and we have extended a conditional offer to a young man for a probationary position by the name of Owen Haddix. He has accepted that offer and will start July the 16th. A lot of help from Melissa to facilitate those interviews and get all that stuff scheduled. I got word last Thursday the volunteers had applied for a foundation grant from TC Energy, that's the parent company over Columbia Gas, for some funding to improve our capabilities for equipment as it relates to confined space rescue. And I got an email that our grant project was approved. This will be the 3rd year that they've got that grant. The previous 2 years, whatever we asked for, they cut it in half. And for some reason, this time around, we asked for $20,000, and that's what they gave us. So we've got we're in the process of getting bids on that equipment, and those bids have to be received by July the 5th, and before 8 weeks before we receive the money. So we'll just kind of wait on that to take its course.
Congratulations and thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
For that.
we've got another one in the pipeline, but it's looking promising. I'll talk more about that at a later date if we get an official notification on it. So, anybody have any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Stokes?
No report.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts?
Just one thing briefly, and then, of course, when we get to the new business, if you have any questions, particularly in regard to what Tracy talked about with the HVAC bid and the financing. One last piece with regard to the DEP grant and the dilapidated properties. One of the properties that was taken down is located at 326 Center Street, corner of Center and Randolph. I'm sure you all know where it is. Now it's gone. And the city will be receiving the deed to that property as part of the agreement to demo the building located on there. So just to let you know that, the owner is going to be having their attorney prepare the deed, and I'll approve it, and it'll be the city's. And I believe both the mayor and your operations manager have some plans possibly, so once it's
More
the
so the
city's.
operations managers.
Okay, operations. So once it's the cities, they can.
You're welcome,
do-
Mike.
Do whatever they're going to do. So that's all, other than if you have questions when we get to the business.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, approval of the vendor invoice payments. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Down to new business, ordinance 334, amending City Code Chapter 33, Elkins Water Board, Section 33.125, exec. This is the final reading. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Ordinance 335, amending Chapter 30.20, competitive bidding regarding council pre-approval of form and manner. This is also the final reading, and I will entertain a motion to accept, please. We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, ordinance 336, the second reading of an ordinance authorizing the transfer of City Hall to the Elkins Municipal Building Commission and the subsequent leasing of City Hall by the city from the Building Commission, authorizing the design, acquisition, and equipping of improvements to City Hall and insurance by the Building Commission of not to exceed $1.2 million in aggregate principal amount of the lease revenue bond to pay cost of such project. This is also the final reading. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Consideration of supplemental resolution related to the transfer of the Elkins City Hall from the city to the Elkins Municipal Building Commission and subsequent leasing of the City Hall by city from the commission to design, acquisition, construction, and equipping of additions, betterments, and improvements to Elkins City Hall, the issuance of the City of Elkins Municipal Building Commission lease revenue bonds, Series 2024B City Hall project, and all matters in connect therewith. I will entertain a motion to accept, please. We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1763, which is a lot shorter, adopting the 2024 through 2029 strategic plan. I will entertain a motion to accept, please. We have a motion. Any questions or comments?
Yes, sir, I do have several questions on that. But I noticed that within the strategic plan, there's nothing that addresses possible new city hall in the future. And a new city hall possibly in the future. So that was one thing that I think needs to be in the strategic plan, at least look at the cost of it. Nothing else really upsetting, but the piece on the sidewalks, is this something that once we adopt it, we will sit down and work through it later on?
I'll defer to Sutton on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in the plan that is basically examining the need for certain things or evaluating the feasibility of certain things. I don't have that wording directly in front of me, but I think that may connect back to a conversation that was just going on in municipal properties when I was out of town. But it was, yeah, exactly. It's to be discussed to what extent the city would take that on and in what shape or form, just because it's something that comes up from time to time.
And the other piece about the parking around Elkins and down along the river and stuff, can we use TIF money to be able to do certain things that would relate to the parking, that relates to the overall tourism piece? Or does that have to be totally separate?
I'd have to look. I'm pretty sure that since one of the umbrellas or buckets for TIF projects is to do with basically infrastructure and improvements downtown, and it clearly applies to the streetscape, and parking is part of a streetscape. It could be used, I think, depending what it would consist of. There's mention of a parking study, I believe, in the
Yes.
plan, and we're going to get connected with a firm that Woodlands has worked with and hear what their proposal would be. But I think it's an open question. We've heard from, I think whenever we've formally looked at parking, formal might not quite be the right word because we haven't actually sponsored a study in a while, but when we had what was the group that came?
Technical assistance it's technical assistance that was offered by Smart Growth America.
Right.
Yeah,
Charleston,
Smart Growth America thought that downtown had plenty of parking. There's obviously just differing opinions on that, so I think it'd be good for the city to get an authoritative opinion from some kind of firm that really looks at those things and really tell us once and for all what we seem to need. So I think that's the first step, and then when it would come time to trying to make improvements related to parking, I think it's possible that could come out of the TIF. I'll also say, though, a little informal research. I know there have been some ideas kicked around about a parking garage. I did a little research, and you can kind of Google around yourself, but when you build a parking garage, apparently you're looking at something like, I think it was like $20,000 a
Per parking
space
space, yes.
is what the cost is. So that might turn out to be pretty cost prohibitive, depending what a study like that would find.
Okay. Now, the budgeting going to be worked out in the future on some of these projects and stuff? Because I don't really recall on the 2024-25 budget going forward that we've put money aside for this.
For that study?
Well, not that particular study. This in the strategic plan, there seems to be several areas that's going to cost. We're going to have outside sources to be able to do that.
Well, I think exactly anything that comes up that is outside of currently budgeted amounts would have to be advocated for, and those amounts would have to be found if possible. If they can't be found, then those things would have to get pushed to another year. But I would look at the plan like this. It's not, I don't think there are, it's not that you're committing to any specific actions and locking yourselves in, having passed it, to saying, oh, we now automatically have to spend X amount of money on X project. It's more just, I think if you just kind of take a zoomed out look at it, if these feel like things that you would like staff to be devoting time and energy to, and working with committees as needed, as appropriate to the different tasks, about if new rules are needed, if funding is needed, there's always going to be that push and pull, but it's more, if this captures most of what council sees as an appropriate direction for staff to be working on, in addition to kind of all their legally mandated tasks and deadlines and so on, then that would be the way to think of it. It's more to kind of frame effort and planning, and it doesn't lock you into anything.
Well, Sutton, I kind of see the plan as more of a guideline instead of a playbook. Is that accurate? I mean, instead of a specific playbook, it's more of a guideline.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just, the staff of a city organization, there's, again, there's a very large amount of what we do that's just simply dictated by law. I mean, elections come along, various deadlines for certain kinds of reporting and processes come along. Necessity arises to do with, street repairs and building repairs and things like that. And then at the margins, there's just any number of possibly great ideas that staff could pick up and work on. And without the guidance of a document like this, it's too open-ended about what you would pick. I don't want to quite use the word discretionary, but without a document like this, it is just kind of discretionary. This would give sort of that next level of things to emphasize once those other mandated kind of tasks are satisfied. It would give some shape to staff choosing what to work on.
But I also think you want to make sure that you're not too restrictive, because you never know when opportunities or funding may come around that wasn't available before that we can take advantage of, and you have to have some flexibility in there for that to happen.
No, I agree, and I have no really problem with it. Well-written, everything, I'm happy with it, and I approve it, and I will approve it and stuff, but I just wanted to touch base on those things. Thank you, sir.
So are you saying that if, I guess there's a motion on the floor to pass the resolution adopting it, you'd like the final copy to include, and I don't see any issue with it since we would just be exploring the feasibility of what next steps for City Hall would look like, whether that's, okay. So I can add that in to the appropriate section.
Who's the entity or the person that will make sure that we're following the plan and keeping us on track to make sure we're considering these different things in a timely fashion?
I think I see one role related to that for myself in the sense that there is I think that basically a standing item on all committees would kind of be updates on the strategic plan, and I would just put that on to, like I say, as a standing item, and I would help work with other admin officers about which things it would make sense to report on. I think we may have to put our heads together as admin officers and give some thought to that, we have the structure we have, which is this kind of five department heads that have to collaborate on these things. So I think a logical way to start would be to have that be a standing item on the appropriate committee agendas.
Well, one thing I think was also interesting, when you look at the past strategic plan, there were a couple things that were just economically not feasible.
Correct.
It was determined, it was put on the strategic plan as a great idea and something to follow through, but then it just, I think the Neighborhood Watch program was one of the things. So just like with the zoning ordinance and a lot of other things, there's always room to reevaluate, to like what the mayor said, try to get funding from outside sources. But if that funding arises, we have this is one of our strategic goals, and we should really pursue that. So there's always flexibility.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1764, accepting conditions of agreement between the United States Department of Agriculture, Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, Wildlife Services, and the City of Elkins, and authorizing execution of agreement. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1765, authorizing closure of a Mountain Valley bank account used for monies in the wastewater fund. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments?
May I make a comment, please?
Yes, please.
So what this was the Phase 2 sewer project, and we had funds of $49.84 left, and we had the approval to go ahead and put that back into the normal sewer fund, and talk with Whitney Himes to see if there was another project coming in the near future. There is not at this time. So as opposed just to keeping a zero balance, for months, years, I'd like to go ahead and close it out.
Any other questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Mid-year funding request, Little League paving proposal. Sutton, would you like to explain, please?
Yeah, as mentioned by Councilor Hinchman, Little League appeared before the Finance Committee today with a bid in hand. Only one company bid on a proposed project to create a pathway at the Little League field in Riverbend Park that would make the park more ADA accessible and more usable for large tournaments and things like that. The Finance Committee voted today to recommend committing to funding the full amount of that, which would be $61,067.40, and to recommend that be paid from the financial stabilization account. And then I'll let the committee weigh in if they want to add anything.
I will also add, this year we are hosting the district tournament, and next year we will be hosting the state tournament.
Are we ready for comments
Yes.
or questions? That's just from like the concession stand area to the, yeah. I was like, I know you all only got one bid, and I must be totally out of tune with paving bids, but I was really surprised.
I actually have an overview picture of what will be paved. Our park, it's basically a triangle.
Can you please step close to the microphone? I'm sorry. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. It's basically a triangle that forms a T, the main walkway in the middle of the two fields, and then they connect to the bleachers on the outside areas on each field. The reason there's only one bid that came through was because of the size of the walkways. There's a lot of narrow areas, and custom paving is the only one that has the equipment to carry out that project.
So the amount is, I mean, I am totally out of touch with pavement contracting and things like that, but the amount seemed normal. Okay.
Well, and we are hopeful that the county commission will partner with us and reimburse us some of the cost. It's supposed to be on an upcoming meeting that they're going to vote on that, so there's not a guarantee, but we're hopeful that that may happen. So. And we can also lock in the price that way as well.
Thank
So
you.
I will entertain a motion to accept, please. Oh, we have a motion. Yes, Mr.
Miss
Parker.
Judy, how are we on the stabilization fund?
I think I have my, so we have,
Thank you, Anthony.
Thanks.
I left my notes from the other meeting downstairs. We have over 900,000 in there now. We have approximately 147,000 that's already allocated for the sewer line over on 11th Street. And then we're looking at probably somewhere around 250,000 for HVAC. But we still would have money, this was discussed in the finance meeting, in order to do this.
So the 900,000 is before those two things were taken?
That's correct,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So this would take us down to approximately, 440? Considering the obligations that
something
we
like
already have outstanding?
Yes, somewhere around that. And depending on how our year end comes, when we look at it, probably around the 1st of March, 1st of August, we may have some excess funds that can go right back into there.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, guys. Mid-year funding request, Allegheny Highland Trails Grant Match Assistance. Once again, Sutton, would you like to explain, please?
And again, it was just a couple hours ago, Finance Committee reviewed a request from the Allegheny Highland Trails Foundation. They are applying for or they need to accumulate $50,000 that can be matched times 4 for a total $250,000 project budget for various trail improvements. And the Finance Committee today recommended that the city contribute $2,500 also to be paid from the financial stabilization account.
I will entertain a motion to accept, please. We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. J, HVAC project bid and related matters. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
And that was just on there, looking ahead. I wasn't sure if there'd be any other actions that would need to be taken. I think
I think we're good.
ordinances and everything, I don't think there's anything else that needs to happen.
Everything's been done. If you noticed that was passed out, that supplemental resolution, attached to it is actually the letter from Mountain Valley Bank that you've already voted on, but it's got the specifics about the, what the cost would be and the payments, et cetera. And just so you know, one of the things we're going to do is, this building is in the name of the city of Elkins. That's when it was deeded to the city back in 1977. But in order to do this process with the building commission, there'll be a transfer from the city to the building commission, which is, you've all approved that, the mayor will sign a deed. At the end of the payments, 25 years, right, Tracy? 25 years, it comes back to the city. So it is the entity that you have to use in order to do long-term financing for cities, the building commission. So, but we've done everything we need to do. The last piece will be signing the actual documents later this week. And we're ready to go as far as I know, right, Mr. Kessler?
So then no action required.
Yes, we are ready to go. As a matter of fact, we had some emails today that they were just waiting for this meeting to take place. We'll send an email out to them, say, let's get started.
And
Okay, then.
the reason for all this today is the 90 days is tomorrow on the bid that was accepted. So we had to kind of get everything done in order to move to the next step. But they're all aware of that.
One thing that we will be addressing here in the near future, and we'll try to be as far in advance notification as we possibly can, the first phase of the project, we will have to relocate the treasurer's office and the downstairs, all the downstairs staff. So once we know where we're going to relocate them, once the project starts, we'll get that information put out to the citizens. So there's plenty of time for everybody to be prepared for that. It will be a little bit of a inconvenience, but big picture, it's going to make this building much nicer. And also, as you can see, we're working in council chambers. I think it turned out really well. I think that the company did a very professional job, and it gave this a very nice setting to have our meetings.
And Councilor Thompson, the ceiling tiles above your head.
I was just looking up. I'm very much appreciative.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Okay, down to mayor's comments. Where to start? Undoubtedly, this is probably one of the hardest meetings I've had to hold. The community support that we've received the past week plus has been tremendous. When I say community support, I mean the entire state. As everyone knows, we lost an officer on June 14th, and we definitely all have a hole in our heart today, and the world is less bright than it was. But we're going to focus on the positive memories and try to focus on the positive impact that Ramon Go had on this community as a whole. Like I said, we need to stick together. I want to thank everybody that has reached out to us and offered anything, any assistance and guidance. My one ask right now is continue to keep our city family in your prayers going forward. When the phone stops ringing and the text stops coming in is when it sometimes gets even harder, because that's when you really have time to stop and think more. So I'm going to ask for long-term, especially my officers downstairs, please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Let them know you're thinking about them. Just a casual, hey, we're here for you, would be greatly appreciated. So on a more positive note, we did celebrate Joe Martin Day last Saturday, or Saturday before last. His daughter Abby came, and we got to dedicate our new flagpole to Joe Martin, who obviously served on council as mayor and as a delegate. It was a great turnout, so thank you to those that did attend. The weather was amazing, and I think everything turned out well. It was an emotional day, but we got through that one as well. And on a more positive note, we had our first council cleanup last Tuesday. And we had 9 people show up, and we walked around town and picked up trash, and it was one of these, let's lead by example. You know, we are elected officials, let's go out and start picking up trash and show people that we're not above doing the small task as well. So thank you to those that showed up. For those of you that didn't get the opportunity to join us, we're going to probably do this again, and we had a discussion afterwards that we're probably going to start going from ward to ward and just start walking through the various wards and offering this throughout the city. It's a nice team building exercise for us, and it was just a good evening of getting together and discussing things and discussing nothing at the same time. So, and also making our city look a lot better. So thank you for that. We had several bags. Mike, I appreciate you guys picking them up for us. And with that, I will say meeting adjourned.